Okay, so about 10 minutes from my parents' house, where I'm from in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there's a small used record store called Stardust Records. And I have a story. I've been going there since I was about 14, but one specific time I went to the basement of the store, and they have roughly about like 10,000 albums, and every single one's $1. So I stumble upon the soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever. Of course, I bought it, and so there were 10 different copies, all for $1. And then a few weeks later, I went to Urban Outfitters and saw the same album for $40. So here's just a little kind of in red. It's Stardust, your typical quaint, and then the very marketed version of the two. And not all of you may be interested in vinyl. That's not specifically, it's a major focus of my topic, but it's not primarily what I'm focused on. Because a lot of us have experienced in some way just marked up costs, whether we're like, that's not worth that much, or it's a streetwear thing that is, a couple $100 that some of you could not care less about it. Just finding what you're paying for and making that justifiable reason for that. That being said, I'm not a pricing or economics or product cost expert or anything, but these things like vinyl and thrift and aspects, like it's just a passion of mine, something that I've done for a few years. So there's certain aspects, obviously a store like Urban Outfitters can be like pretty easily correlated. Some of the things that they sell there specifically, like Crosley record players. And there's just a lot of, I say miseducation, but maybe just not a ton of knowledge about a topic if you're trying to get into it or something, and people trying to market that, which has the effect of commercialism being evident and negatively impacting vinyl records, as well as similar goods. So my first point being specifically Urban Outfitters. It presents their products as trendy and expensive and really, having that vintage aesthetic or whatever, super cool things. But there's a lot of issues. I'm not trying to take a stab at Urban Outfitters, but there's just a lot of issues within their items, such as marked up prices for the quality of them, certain aspects of controversial items. They actually released a sweatshirt that said Kent State University, and it was stained in blood, which I don't know if you guys know, but there's it was in the 60s during the Vietnam War. There was it was the National Guard that killed a couple students there. So it's they kind of and it's happened with a lot of different things. They've kind of taken jabs at eating disorders and whatnot. They almost release products, and then when everybody lashes back at them, they're like, oh, we'll take it off the store and apologize, and kind of almost do these risky aspects that they listen to their customers to see where the line is, per se. But a big aspect within the increase in vinyl was them being one of the biggest franchise stores that has a big selection, along with places like Barnes & Noble and a few others. But how they kind of first got on the market with vinyl and different aspects of it, they almost sold it as a lifestyle and made it really easy. And oh, here's the vinyl, and here's your perfect little record player that you can take home. And, it's really, it's almost expensive, and well, it is expensive, but I'm saying they almost display it as something that is only in the form that it is at Urban Outfitters, or at least it's accessible to you. And it's one of their influential parts to their success and also to the increase in vinyl, but I'll get into a little bit more about how that's problematic. Because one of the things that they mainly sell are Crosley record players. That's one right there. If you own one, there's nothing wrong with them. It's completely fine, but I'm just talking about just in the perspective of a consumer purchase. Because it's a great intro, but a lot of people don't know that it's really not necessarily Urban Outfitters, slaps that's the pricing of it. It's $70 to $100, just for a cheap starter record player kit, and it's great. But on the flip side, I kind of broke down what I think is the cheapest option that not everybody is an audiophile, whatever, likes those aspects of it, but really what you're paying for is you could get for not too much more an immensely better quality aspect of it that, you know, some people just would rather pay for the specific thing themselves, and that's fine. But this is something that with this setup, just a turntable, a receiver, and speakers, it these speakers are actually the cheapest speaker in an audiophile magazine that has like some of the best, like just a really high quality for a really low price. That's not thrown at you at Urban Outfitters for a high marked up price with high marked up vinyl. So they definitely, the Persuasive record players along with Urban Outfitters have really helped the increasing vinyl, and that's really awesome. At the same time, they're not really telling people other options or different aspects of it, which kind of goes along with this whole idea of marketing, and people who aren't as educated. So most people buying most people buying vinyl, getting into fashion, or just other like certain trends that kind of, you know, have within the like last 5-10 years have really increased. Not that they're not knowledgeable or anything, you know, because we all just like look for finds, and that's really awesome. But it's just one thing, you gotta know where you want to look for your money, because chances are, you know, you're at Urban Outfitters and there's a $40 album, but 10 minutes away there's 10 copies each for $1. Just certain aspects of that. With buying this, in my experience, I've found that the less convenient something is, the better quality or better satisfaction that you can have with something, because it's not just put in front of you in a downtown Urban Outfitters in a photo package case. And so with that convenience, thrift stores, farmers markets, secondhand shops, kind of all those, you know, even garage sales, it helps you find the best finds, because they're not really gonna necessarily scream it out at you, or you know, they're all, you know, not the best deals aren't always gonna be like right in front of your face, which is something that if you don't know, you know, where to find something that you want to get into, maybe ask a friend, or you know, find an online community or like Reddit or something that has people who are maybe more experienced or have knowledge in that specific area or something that you want to get into. So basically just trying to not overpay for something that is a very like low quality or something that you could spend your money on better. With that being said, commercialism is evident and negatively impacting in some aspects vinyl and other goods. But there's no wrong way to consume. Having a simple, you know, if you want to spend, you know, a lot of money on albums or something, that's totally fine. You know, you can do that. But finding the smartest ways to do that is a much better option.